There's something about car guys that brings out the most vile insults ever. Now, I would argue that 90% of that reason is because the majority of us car guys aren't really snowflakes, and we know how to take some hate now and then, and we definitely know how to give it out too. But the other 10% is simply because of something called jealousy. And sadly, the car that we are going to talk about today got a lot of hate for literally just being too popular. Hello everyone, my name is Mark Roden, and today that is exactly what we're talking about. How a car that gets so much hate for being an old man's car is secretly one of the best bargain supercars out there. The point of this video, before we even get started, is not to sell you on the C5 Corvette. If you want a certain car, get that car. At the end of the day, it is your money, your time, and your brain making the decision on what you will find fun. But I do hope to steer your mind away from the whole Corvettes are midlife crisis mobiles joke. That's far overstayed its welcome. You see, what happens in the car world is this. A car comes out, and at first it is loved by nearly everyone. Think of the Nissan GT-R or the Toyota Supra, for example. But then, over time, the car loses the impact that it once had simply due to advancements in technology. However, the people that loved the car when it came out still love the car, so the prices remain the same. That is called price appreciation. While most cars experience something called price depreciation, where the price goes down and down and down until it's only useful for somebody looking for a cheap way to get into a car, a very, very select few will actually start climbing back up, and in some cases, even past the vehicle's original MSRP. But sadly, just like everything else in this world, popularity comes with hate. What usually happens is someone makes a dumb statement on why they think the car is overpriced, and since the internet is mainly young people, they eat it all up and go with whatever the first viral video tells them to think, not realizing that these cars aren't expensive for their performance anymore, they're expensive for their impact. Think about a Ferrari, for example. You can get the exact same performance and arguably even better in something like a C8 Corvette, Audi R8, or R35 GTR for way less than something like a Ferrari F4 350 or F4 350 sells for. But we don't question the ridiculous price tag because we realize that the name itself is what those people are paying for. Well, with the C5 Corvette, the hate came and it somehow worked. The C5 Corvette came out in 1997 and it had some pretty big shoes to fill. The C4 Corvette before the C5 was not doing too hot. The 80s in general were a very bad time for American car makers. And so the C5 knew that it had to do something incredible to grab the attention again. And it did. The car sold a very decent 33,000 models the very first year, but with a price tag of only $37,000, which yes is $69,000 in today's money, but that is still crazy cheap for a borderline supercar of its time. But what's so crazy about this car's sales is that it only went up, selling 34,000 or even 35,000 models for the remainder of its runtime, which is insane. I have done a lot of these what makes it great videos, and in every single one, the car sells a whole lot the first year due to hype, but then it massively drops off because people get bored of it. Well, that never happened with the C5. Part of the reason it sold so well was because of the looks. They finally ditched the small, boxy looks of the C4 for a much larger car with rounded off edges and a more bubble shape. But the big reason was, of course, the performance. This car would actually be the first ever Corvette to be equipped with an LS motor, which, as we all know, is one of the most legendary motors of all time, even in 2023. But back then, when it came out, they didn't know the impact that it would have, so they went with numbers, and those were good too. It was a 5.7 liter V8, making an insane 350 horsepower in the base model, which, by the way, the Ferrari F355 was only making 380 horsepower, so this Corvette was not that far off from the supercars of the time, and it was paired with an incredible 6-speed manual transmission, which was now mounted to the rear axle, allowing for the car to have a perfect 50-50 weight distribution. The absolutely amazing advancements of the C5 Corvette over the C4 do not stop there though. As a matter of fact, this thing was only getting started. The car now weighed only 3,100 pounds, which despite looking like a very large car compared to the C4 at least, meant it was now even lighter. Part of that is because the LS engine is so lightweight for a V8 motor that it was a technical marvel at release, but also because Chevy really focused on cutting weight for this car, even ditching stuff like the spare tire to save a couple more lbs. And due to them making the car insanely lightweight and the car having amazing aerodynamics to get the lowest drag coefficient possible, this thing was not only quick with a top speed of 175 miles per hour and a 0 to 60 of 4.5 seconds, once again rivaling the Ferrari and Aston Martin DB7 of the time, but that also helped give the car an insanely good miles per gallon with a freaking combined 28 miles per gallon. That's insane. Not only was this car good on gas, but it was reliable as hell too. I will just put a screenshot up on the screen now of the entire list of problems that the C5 Corvette had, and you can tell me if this sounds like a V8 powered supercar. Just think about that for one small little second. A car that costs $37,000 with gas mileage and reliability like a Civic, an engine and horsepower like a muscle car, and track performance and lap times like a Ferrari, all stuffed into a body style that still to this day in 2023 looks amazing. That is almost as insane as how over 80% of the people watching this video are not subscribed to the channel. It just makes no sense. But while the rest of the world was so excited to see that Chevy still had it in them when making the next best sports car, Chevy was thinking about how they could do it even better.
Speed 170, still climbing.
Does anybody have any idea what this is?
I do.
Well,
It's the next vet.
get me one.
In 2001, Chevy would release the best they could possibly do while keeping the Corvette not only road legal, but also affordable, and they called it the Z06 to pay homage to the Z06 that they had all the way back in the 60s. This new and improved C5 Z06 was somehow even better than the base model. It was now only offered with the manual transmission and hardtop coupe instead of the target top or convertible options in the base model. This allowed it to drop another 150 pounds from the total curb weight. They also obviously slightly tuned the motor to give it a bit more power. How much power, you ask? Oh, only a small 50 horsepower jump, buddy, bringing the Z06 all the way up to 405 horsepower. That's like 10 more than 395 horsepower. And since the car was still equipped with an LS motor, you would be a damn fool to think that this thing was going to be hard pressed to make any more than the original horsepower numbers. At this point, the car had already proven itself as a return of the Corvette, and to be honest, Chevy really didn't need to do anything else with it. But of course, they decided they wanted to flex on them guys over at Ford a little bit. We all know the story of the wonderful Ford GT40 and what it did to Ferrari at Le Mans due to that wonderful movie, Ford vs. Ferrari. And even though this is a video on the Corvette, which is the GT40's rival pretty much, I think we can agree that the GT40 had an absolutely massive impact on motorsports, especially for Americans. But what if I were to tell you that that's not the only time an American sports car made Italian supercars cry themselves to sleep? Well, say hello to the Corvette C5R. This was a race car version of the C5 Corvette that was built by Pratt & Miller for the GM racing team, and it was a ridiculously huge success. It was entered into a ridiculous number of races. Most of them, they won. In 2001 alone, they won 8 out of 10 of the races that they entered into, and the 2 that they lost, they got second place in, one of those being at the 24 Hours of Daytona, and they got a 1-2 finish at 24 Hours of Le Mans, something that they managed to do 3 out of 4 times when racing at Le Mans. Let me explain how impressive that is. 24 Hours of Le Mans is the ultimate race. Budgets are not a thing for those companies, and all they want to do is build the best race car possible and prove it at Le Mans. Well, Chevy did that. Not only won 3 out of 4 times the car was entered, but they got first and second 3 out of 4 times the car was entered. So if that sounds like something only a midlife crisis guy can appreciate, then I guess I've been going through one ever since I realized how great this car is.
Oh God, it's so good. So good.
Nowadays, yes, most of the old timers like the C5 Corvette, but have you ever stopped to think about why they like the car? I mean, let's face it, us young car enthusiasts don't know as much as they do. We may think we do, but at the end of the day, we don't. These guys have been around for longer than we even knew how to change a tire on a car. This channel and this video alone would probably never even be a thing if it weren't for my dad constantly telling me when growing up that cars can be more than just a form of transportation. People in the car community are going to hate on your choice in cars no matter what. When I got the Z, I knew damn well I would hear so many trumpet jokes, but I didn't care because I knew I loved the car. But trust me, if you buy a C5 Corvette and you drive it how it's meant to be driven, every one of the insults will be massively drawn out by the roaring sound of the LS barreling down a highway comfortably at 175 miles per hour. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what other deep dives you'd like to see down in the comments below. Of course, in the top of the description, or top of the comment section, is going to be a link to my second channel where I go over Grand Theft Auto Online content. If you like Grand Theft Auto Online and you want to check that out, it would really mean a lot to me. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know what other cars, obviously, that you'd like to see. I already said this part, but I want to really emphasize it. I always get my ideas based off of what somebody else says in the comments. So if you guys want to see, keep in mind though that, you know, if I don't do your car, that's not because I ignored it. I either A, didn't see it, B, it's coming, or C, I didn't really think it was going to be that big of a hit, and so I might not do it until a little bit later. But I'm gonna try and do most of the big name sports cars, so don't worry, they're gonna be out there, buddy. It's gonna be out there. I get a lot of comments of people wanting to do this car and that car and that car. I can't do that many videos, man, so I hope you guys understand. But either way, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Das vidania. Have a nice night.